That down there is the oldest DC-3 currently flying, American Airlines flagship Detroit, built in 1937, lovingly restored over the years. And that, of course, is runway 13 left at John F. Kennedy International Airport. And off on the upper right-hand side of your screen is the American Airlines terminal. We are here. Let me just pop inside here. This is not, by the way the flagship Detroit looks on the inside anymore. This is the original cockpit. This is the original shock-mounted wet compass. This is the original instrument quadrant here, and the original switches. And right over here is the original and very, very funky Sperry autopilot, which is demonstrated actually in an old Army training video, which you'll also see in a minute. But at the moment in this plane, this is the converted version of a P-3D freeware plane that is magical, converted by an outfit called Aeroworx. And for the moment, they've kind of installed a sort of hybrid system here. You see this little gizmo down here? This is a kind of stand-in autopilot that does some more autopilot-y things than this. In the old days, this authentic autopilot, basically what it did was, this down here is the directional gyro, which you adjust down here and match to the wet compass. This up here is how you wanted the plane to steer, which you would match using this right here with that. And you would do the same thing once you got the plane in level flight. You would match this right here, this elevator thing right here, with your artificial horizon, and you would match using the ailerons this down here with level flight or zero. Once you did all of that, you would engage the autopilot with a switch, which I'm not sure is modeled here. Where is that switch? With a switch somewhere. The other thing you would do is check right here. This is the engine hydraulic setup. Lord knows how that works, but you did have a flight engineer sitting back here to do all that stuff sometimes. And you would get it all hooked up and engage it, and then it would maintain level flight, and it would roll if you wanted to make it roll. And that's about it. And climb if you wanted to make it climb. But it really wasn't an autopilot in the sense that we know it. You'd first have to establish the level flight conditions, or whatever conditions you wanted to be in, and then it would hold it, and you could tweak it. Now, the way this is set up here is that it has heading and nav tracking and all the rest. I suppose as a kind of backstop for online flyers and people want to do a little bit more elaborate work. Let's just get our... Now, the other thing is that this is a beta, or pre-beta, so I'm trying to get this into altitude mode, and it doesn't really want to do it, so we'll just pretend that it did. And there's a lot of stuff in here that's still a work in progress, but even as it stands, it's magnificent. Now, we're flying today. Let me just set our correct altimeter here. There we go. We are flying today in part because of a challenge from a viewer, not a challenge, but a comment from a viewer on the last video, which was to kind of demonstrate in a 8 or a 10 knot crosswind just how shitty X-Plane's ground handling was. And This viewer, a gentleman named Robert Phelps, gently took issue and said, well, here, I'll read you the comment in 1 second, as soon as, oh, all right, well, the altimeters are synced, so we don't have to worry about setting both. We'll just set one. Anyway, as we look at this magnificent plane here, get a little distance from it so that we can hear me yammer. There we go. I will show you the comment, and that will sort of explain what we're doing today. Now, my experience in DC-3s is nil when it comes to flying them. However, I've been lucky enough in my short existence to have flown in them as a passenger on a paying commercial flight. And that was on Provincetown Boston Airlines, PBA, and in the summertime they flew from LaGuardia or from Logan to Cape Cod, to Hyannis and Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, Provincetown, using DC-3s, including one that was made in 35 or 36, and I flew on that. And that'll come into play later too, but let me just see if we can find one, because it was wild in the 1980s, late 1980s, flying one of these, walking out to the tarmac and getting on one of these. It's just pure magic. It really was like stepping back in time, and you can see right there, that's Logan Airport, and that's a frickin' commercial DC-3, which is just totally, unbelievably, incredibly wild. I mean, here they were parked, you know, at modern hangars and modern terminals and so forth. And here's one on approach, and that's looks like a re-engined DC-8 there in the background. So this is the great-granddaddy, and this is the great-grandson right there. But, I mean, this is what it looked like inside. It was just truly beautiful. Of course, you get in, and you'd be tilted backwards, and look at this. They even had a plastic model you could buy in miniature. At any rate, they stayed in service because they were useful. They could carry a lot of cargo and a lot of people, and they're still in use today. Very few planes this size that can get in strips as small as this can can carry as much as the DC-3 or C-47 can. So in places like Latin America, in Alaska, Canada, parts of Africa, they're still in use. Some of them have even been re-engined by an outfit called Basler with turboprops. But the basic chassis, as it were, is nearly indestructible, carries a ton, and flies beautifully. Now, I want you to look at this image of this aircraft landing, because this gets right to Mr. Phelps's comment. Let me just make it bigger here. This is the way every single commercial DC-3 I've ever flown on has landed. This, in tail dragger term, is called a wheel landing. You land on your main gear and you basically keep in this profile until you get to a speed too slow for the tailplane to fly, and what you do is you gently lower this to the ground, and then you pull back on the stick considerably to put a little more weight on it, and then you gingerly steer off the runway. The other way you can land in a tail dragger is in the three-point attitude, and that is where this, and that all touch down at the same time, and it usually necessitates landing at a slower speed and stalling the aircraft onto the runway, and it is considered the most beautiful form of landing for a tail dragger, the most elegant. But let me just see if I can see if we can find a picture of one landing in the three-point attitude. Here is a video. Let's see if it is. Oh, yeah. Well, that's not a DC-3. Let's see. No, that's a fake DC-3. See if there are any images of one. Well, here's one that could be about. Oh wait, that's a simulated one too. Now I'm not being snide here. I'm just. It struck me. Let me read his comment, and I'll show you why it struck me as strange, but also why perhaps for simulated flying, especially for an X-plane, in X-plane, it might not be a horrible thing to do. Now, a wheel landing is any landing where these two touch first, even if this one is almost on the ground. Some people call it a hybrid landing, but technically it's still a wheel landing. It might be useful, as you'll see, to land this way because of X-plane's atrocious ground handling, but let me just read you his comment so you can get a full idea, and we'll kind of take up the challenge. He writes here, while I agree there's still a lot more ground handling issues to be sorted, the DC-3 is best landed in a full flare at the proper read about stall speed. You can, of course, wheel land it, but holding the tail off means it's still flying and you're not batting the rudder. You're going to have a lot of fun. Read, oh shit. This aircraft has the wing loading of a 182. That's true, and feels very similar in roll. That's true. But is docile in comparison to much heavier tail draggers. That's true too. The Patuxent River Test Pilot School considers the ground handling of the DC-3 to be a Phase 1 defect. Don't tell all the liberated troops or Patton's tank crews, because neither the POWs or the gas for the tanks would have been delivered without the Goonie Bird. Try a stall series at 5,000 feet. Learn where you can control versus stall and landing configuration. You'll be amazed at what it can do and how slowly it can actually fly. And I don't disagree with a lot of that. It just so happens that the published VSO, or stall speed, of this aircraft is 58 knots, and the recommended approach speed is anywhere from 1.4 to 1.5 times VSO, which works out to about 90 knots. Now, Robert suggests 1.3 times, and I tried that and it still doesn't let you stall it on, but what we'll do is we'll try a series of tests at different speeds, and in the words of Rich, see how we get on. We'll use Kennedy here for no other reason than it's got a nice long runway, but we will try to land it in the touchdown zone. And the other thing I've done to make our lives just a little bit simpler, well, what am I saying, our lives? Your lives are probably simple enough watching me screw up. But to make my life simpler, and because X-planes crosswind characteristics are iffy in and of themselves, what I've done is turned off the winds just to eliminate that one variable. The other thing I'll do is, let me just quickly show you. This is why I'm skeptical, but willing to be proven wrong. This is why I'm skeptical about this whole full stall and implied three-point landing recommendation. But let me just get rid of all this crap here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm also going... Well, I was going to check and see if we were recording, because it seems like we might not be. But anyway, this is the Army training film here. and it's in 3 parts. You can get it on YouTube. This is the Army training film on flying a C-47 or a DC-3, and it is wonderful. So here we go. They're about to shut off the autopilot here and fly an approach.
Time to go home. Want to give the car a buzz? Change fuel quantity gauge switch. We'll go back to the main tank.
Okay, so they go for the fullest tank.
Approach check now. Cross feed valve should be off. Check. Wing de-icer valve off. Both autopilot valves off. Major control set to auto rich. All flaps in trail position.
Okay, so there's gear down.
Light green, pressure up. Neutral. I have a wheel. I have a wheel. Is the tail wheel locked? Locked. I'm going to depress the brakes to check for normal pedal pressure.
Testing the hydraulics. Look at that.
We're starting our base leg now. Give me 1/4 flap. 1/4 flap. On the final approach, I'll take 3/4 flap. Okay. Unlock the tail wheel and open the cowl flap. And that's all there is to it. Except, of course, that in the C-47, as in any airplane, the landing isn't complete until the wheels have stopped moving. Is the procedure very different for a single-engine landing?
Okay, so that is the way they did it in the good old days, and that is a wheel landing. Now, you didn't hear any speed call outs, so we have to go searching elsewhere for that. But before we do anything else, I'm just going to stop the video for 1 second here and make sure that that recorded. If it didn't, well, if it didn't, I'll go back in time and fix it. Anyway, hang on. Okay, so it did record and we are back, and the bottom line is that that's how they taught it in the training film, and now let's just see how it's practiced today. And let me just pause that there, because there are legitimate reasons why you might want to do a 3-point landing, at least in a small tail dragger. One of the reasons is that you're flying onto grass or onto a short strip or both. Not wheel, but 3-point landings in a heavy plane are, according to my buddy Les, who is type rated in this plane, who's actually flown this very plane, he says 3-pointers in a heavy plane on asphalt or concrete are very rough on tires. So generally speaking, they're not done. But again, let's just see if it's done here, at least in YouTube land, on a modern day incarnation of a DC-3. So here is another famous DC-3. And that is a very short field landing on grass, and that is a wheel landing. Now, here is a flight instructor walking a student through from the cockpit, so you can get a better idea of what we're going to be aiming for, but also the rule that we're sort of going to be breaking to try out Mr. Phelps's recommendation, because there might be a good reason to.
Landing sequence.
So here we go.
Right there, you're red over white, you're clear to land, 90 knots, and you're on the Pappy.
Okay, so you saw that 90 knots, which is about the speed I've been using. Now this is not the speed over the fence, so assume it'll decay just a little bit perhaps, but here we go.
Speed looks good. Leave your hand right there where it's at. All you're going to do is close them, but not yet. Keep that nose down, keep it down. More nose down. There you go. After landing, I'm going to help you by pushing on the yoke, and we're just going to let it coast to a stop. Nice and neat. Looking good. You're red over red, that's just right. Coming down.
Look at those
Speed's
flaps.
good. Easy on the yoke, just hold that yoke steady. There you go. Leave the power, leave it, nose down, more nose down. All right, now start to ease them back. Hold it. There you go. That's good. Now push on the yoke, no brakes, just push on the yoke. You got it, you're okay. See how that tail stays level now? Keep it pushed, keep it pushed. Now we're gonna fly the tail down. Ease it back, we're gonna land the tail. Now. There you go, now all the way back. And now you can use a little bit of brake.
Okay, so that is an instructor, the same instructor I think who instructed the great Steve at Flight Shops here on his landing. And again, you'll get a sense of the rhythm of landing the plane. People are instinctively afraid of nosing over in this airplane, and as you'll see in a minute, the brakes on the X-Plane version are just a little bit funky, but here we go. This is Flight Shops here.
Down, 36 right.
But this is looking like a conflict. You make a turn.
Initial right brake at the numbers, you can plan 36 left.
This is
You gave him
Oshkosh.
left.
Gray and white, T28 Fond du Lac. Report Warbird Island, gray and white.
Yellow DC-3, 2 mile right base, 36 right.
Yellow DC-3, runway 36 right, you said you could take?
Either one.
All right, let's do that. 36 right, clear to land for yellow DC-3. Do I have an RV out there that's following that DC-3?
He's in front of me.
Thank you very much. Can you follow him all the way in?
I'm right on him.
All right, no problem. Yellow DC-3, go to 36 left down. Yellow DC-3, 36 left.
You're clear?
You're going to stay 36 right and put it on the red square for me. Thanks for the help there, guys.
Yeah, red square, 36 left, yellow DC-3.
Okay, so we're clear.
All right.
Report from
I'm flying a Pitts approach here.
Yellow DC-3,
All right.
you can put it down anywhere you want. My RV out there, thanks for the help out there.
All right, put your hands right here. Relax your upper body. We're going to 36 left now.
Yeah, that's where
Your
you're
check is good. Everything's nice and easy. Your speed's on 90 knots, which is very nice. Let this airplane land itself. Nice and easy. There you go. When I tell you to, we're going to ease the throttles back, not close them, okay?
Okay, you want to run the center line?
Yep, center line. We're going to make it.
Can you square it up?
So we're just like 5 feet off the ground now, right?
Yep. Hold the yoke back a little bit. Ease the power back just slightly. Easy, easy, easy. Hold it. Hold it.
Oh, bounce. Okay.
Little bounce.
Should we
You're all
have-
right.
Do we add the power?
Yeah, you're
Fix
okay.
the...
28 Fond du Lac.
You're okay. You're all right.
Oh my god, dude.
Silver B-25.
Oh, you let me do it. I appreciate
All right,
that.
I got the airplane. You're okay.
You got the airplane.
Yep. All right. Now just relax a second.
Fancy.
Is that the guy that went around?
Negative. That was the...
Oh, that's
Not
crazy.
bad for your first one.
Okay, so that shows a little of the finesse you need, but again, 90 knots on down and basically just arresting the rate of sink without flaring especially. Basically letting it descend slowly onto the runway. So here finally is a good POV shot from flagship Detroit, and as you'll see, they've replaced the instrument panel. They've kept a lot of the instruments, or the same type instruments in the same locations, but they've repainted the panel, and it doesn't quite have quite the old steampunk soul that this has, but still, it's pretty cool. There we go. And this is at a murderous airport. This is Charleston, West Virginia, and as you can see, it's named after Chuck Yeager, and you sort of have to be Yeager to fly into it. This runway on both ends is on a hill. There's practically no overruns. More than one or two planes have smacked into all sorts of stuff here. It's nasty and gnarly, and it's surrounded by mountains, but we'll watch them do their magic. Now watch the guy's hands. Well, crap. There we go. That's the flaps coming up. And again, a wheel landing. So we're going to first go up to 5,000 feet, and we'll practice a stall. I can tell you what's going to happen if the airplane is accurate, fully configured, geared down, full flaps. It'll stall right below 60. So it should be pretty dead on, and actually we can do it at 3,000 feet. We're not going to kill ourselves. And then we will try first a regular technique landing. So we will be 90 knots will be either flaps 3/4 or flaps full. 3/4 seems to be the Army way, and in the video we saw that wing view, flaps full seems to be the way they did it there. Other than that, there's not going to be a whole lot of other diddling around. You'll hear a little bit of funky noises because I can't quite get these engines to equalize all the time left to right, so there's going to be a little bit of a difference, and to no avail despite the changes in my throttles. You see I can get the left engine, you can see there the needle climbing up. I can get that to climb up on its own, and usually, watch what happens. I'm going to bring up now the right engine, and you'll see, oh, you know what, this time it worked. The last time I played around with this, it moved both of them simultaneously, so maybe I'm doing something right this time. It's important because in the real plane, using differential power is very, very useful in fighting a crosswind. I'm just going to crank in a little bit of right rudder trim, and look at this. When I say crank in, I mean crank in. That is the crank. And right down there, that is the indicator. This is just so damn cool. And actually, I think right there on and off is the autopilot hydraulic sort of gadget, but I'm not sure. So let me just get a little bit of right rudder trim, not a ton. And we're just going to take off here. We're going to get the tail up fairly quickly and see how we get on. I'm going to start with the stick full back, at least initially. Advance the power smoothly. I'm going to relax the back pressure. I'm going to let the nose come down naturally. Give it a little bit of a push. There we go. Just going to hold that. Hold center line. Try to. There we go. And we're going to fly it off at about 100. And it comes up as nicely as you please. It's going to pitch for about 110. Retrim. Bring up the gear. Turn outbound here. Now we will come down to somewhat of a more normal power setting here. And you can see engine 1 lags engine 2, and you can also see that both of them are coming down when I adjust it. So I think I've got a little bit of controller crosstalk here. Bring our props back. Our flaps are already up. And we'll get into kind of a reasonable climbing configuration as we head out over Coney Island. Now I'm dubious about this, but I'll just retrim. It seems like we should have a little bit more left turning tendency. Again, I'm just maintaining about 115 knots right now. Climbing up here, we'll get over Old Floyd Bennett Field. We're a little bit heavy. We got about a little more than half fuel and a decent amount of cargo on here, so actually fly towards Sandy Hook here. Not Sandy Hook, I'm sorry, Breezy Point. This is Rockaway where we are, over Jamaica Bay. And as you can see, this airplane just looks magnificent. And it really flies very nicely. It just hand flies wonderfully. So what we'll do is we'll dirty ourselves up and then we'll do some stalls. Now this airplane is not very docile in a stall in real life. It tends to drop a wing. We'll see if it happens in the fake one. We'll make for Sandy Hook right there. All right, 100 to go. Start to level off. Let me see if I can get our props evened out just a little bit. Well, they don't seem to move very independently. Just overshot our altitude a bit. This airplane is not slow, by any stretch. Alright, let's get ourselves trimmed out. Come on. I'm still tweaking my yoke for this airplane, so I'm a little bit in between trim positions here, so you can tell. Alright, now, while we're still, I guess, in white arc range here, let's just let us just get some gear and flaps out momentarily. Still trying to adjust those throttles and not having a good time of it. They're about an inch apart right now on my desktop. All right, so we're reasonably level here. We're at 140 knots. Let's get out one notch of flaps. And you see the nose rise. So that's 1/4 flaps. Get the gear out. And we will retrim in a second. Get a little more power in. Now you can see the airplane gets a little mushy. You can also see we've gained a little altitude. All right. Get another notch in. Get that nose back down. And we'll do 3/4. And we'll do full. And it requires a lot of nose down trim. Also get our props full. And now we're going slower than we should. But all right. Let me just retrim a bit. And what we're going to do here is we're going to basically roll off the power till we stall. So we'll roll off the power, maintain level flight, we'll bring the nose up, and we'll bring the nose up. We'll let the nose come up. You can see us mushing around already at 80, which is why this seems just a little slow for an approach. Okay, we'll let the nose come up and let it come up and retrim. And really have to trim. And there's still plenty of rudder authority, so that's good. Okay. Here comes 70. And again, we're maintaining level flight. And we're pitching up. You can see our artificial horizon there. We're now about 5 degrees nose up. Retrim and roll off a little more power. Trim, and here comes 60. We should get a break any second now. Just using the rudder pedals to stay level, stay wings level, that is. I don't have a lot of aileron authority at all. And here we go. So what I'll do is when we stall, I will relax the back pressure. I'll push slightly, remove the cause of the stall, in other words, and then slowly bring power back. And we're just mushing out of the sky right now. All right, and there's our wing drop. A little bit of left rudder to counter it, and roll the power back in. Avoid a secondary stall, and there we are. So it does stall at just below 60, which is as it should, and at least initially it just sort of mushes in, which wouldn't be unuseful for gear up, would not be unuseful for a three-point landing. It sort of mushes into that position naturally. We'll fly a Canarsie approach here. Now let me just get our speed up. So, I mean, it's plausible you could fly it that way, so let's try to land it that way. I have my doubts that a good three-pointer is workable, at least with my limited skills in this fake plane. But who knows? My controls just froze there for a second. That's not the fault of the sim, that's whatever my desktop, whatever my fancy pants yoke is doing. Alright, so we're at 3,000 feet here, and we're just going to come on cooking in. Try to retrim for this. Try. And we're flying this, you know, at a rather healthy clip. In the old days, we would land at Floyd Bennett Field, and we would call that New York. Which it sort of is. Or we'd land at Newark. Alright, so there we are. Chugging along here. Heading towards Canarsie Pier. Going way too fast. But we'll get configured. This airplane slows down nicely. Smartly, briskly. So that is Canarsie Pier right there. That is a visual checkpoint. Technically you have to be at 1200 right there. So let's get ourselves close. More. I don't want the gear horn to sound or the gear hound to soarn, because we know how painful that is. I think I've set these controls to be a little heavier than they really are, but heavy is probably, erring on the heavy side is probably fine. Okay, there's the Parkway. There's the pier, there's Jamaica Bay, and there's the airport. And dead ahead of us right there is Aqueduct Raceway. So now we're going to level off in a second at about 1200, and we will use that to slow us down. Okay, we'll just ease back now. Retrim, and in a second we'll get out 1/4 flaps. Now watch the nose come climbing up there. There we go. We'll just fight that, and we'll slow, and now we'll get the gear down. And we'll go for 1-3 left again. Okay. Now, ordinarily you would get your final stage of flaps out on fairly short final. We'll do it a little bit sooner so we can get stable sooner. Now again, we're going to fly at 75 to follow young Mr. Phelps's recommendation. And I'm not being snarky here. I'm going to try my best here to give this a good shot. Okay, so there we are, just below 80. Okay, and we're flaps full. Okay, there we are at 75. This is distinctly mushy. I have almost no aileron authority, but it's okay. Airplanes are supposed to be mushy at slow speed. Make minor power adjustments. Make sure the auto rich, auto lean system doesn't work yet, so I've got the throttle, the carbs full rich, and we'll just make our turn to final at the T-shaped building down there. Okay, we are red over white, we're good. Takes a fair bit of rudder to make this plane go, and you should probably lead your roll with some rudder pedal. Alright, so now I'm a little fast here, so let me just adjust, and we will have to get the airplane into almost a 3-point attitude as we get just a little closer. And that's probably going to be a little bit problematic. But here we go. So now, as we get closer, I'm a little bit out of trim. As we get closer to the threshold, we will roll off more power. Now we're at about 70. So I'm really trying to stall it on here, and that may be difficult because, well, it just may be difficult. So now I'm just going to let it mush back, and that is not great technique, but that is a hard 3-point landing. Let's see a replay of that. So now I've got my yoke full back. Now look how touchy the brakes are on this plane. And this is the model. I mean, the brakes are touchy in any case, but they're very touchy on this plane. Even when you're standing still, watch this. Okay, so we're standing still here, almost standing still there. Now, I can put on the brakes and watch what happens. Or here, watch what happens. The tail comes up off the ground even just doing that, which probably isn't quite the truth, but let's see what that looked like. I don't think it looked good. Now, it's also the first time I've done that, but essentially what we're trying to do is stall it just a few feet above the runway. And we got a little bounce out of it because we were probably just a little fast, and so we still had a little flying speed left in us. Let's just see. When we alright, so you can see the speed right down there. We're right at about 70. And to make this thing mush onto the runway, we have to be pretty close to 60. So let's just see. So off comes the power, and you see the speed bleeding back. And there's almost no directional control, and there we are close to 60, and meh. Now let's see what it looked like from the side. I'm sure it was ugly. Alright, so there we are. And you can see we're pulling back and slowing down and pulling back, and That was a 3-point landing with a little extra speed. Alright, so it can be done. Now let me show you the sort of generally accepted technique, but alright. So let me get our trim set here. Probably a little too much nose down. There we are. Alright. Auto rich. You know, our cowl flap should be trail and not open. I mean, it doesn't, not going to kill us that they're open, but it just means we give up a little speed for a little cooling. Alright, so we'll take off, fly the pattern, and this time give it another go. Okay, so initially stick back, so I've got some tail wheel control, and as soon as I start to feel it get a little bit light, we bring the nose down. Try to maintain center line again. There we go. And we'll fly it off right about at 100, so there we go. Again, once you have elevator authority, it's hard to nose this plane over. That's the fear, is that you're going to push it and you're going to end up with your props right down in the hard ground, but that's not really the case. And we'll fly this pattern just a little tighter and a little sportier here. We'll come around to 310. Or 315, I think, is the current runway heading. And this scenery captures the repaved runway 22 right, so that's good. Just going to widen out a little bit here. There we go. These are the approach lights for the old runway 27. All right, we'll do this at about 1,500 feet. Head out over the A train right there. Let's see where we are. Alright, there we go. There's the race track. We'll use that as our point to turn final. And you can see how fast this airplane gets. Just right here in the pattern, it is a wingy plane, and it's a slippery plane for its time. It's beautifully engineered. Alright, here we go. Let's see where we are. And it really wants to climb. Alright. We'll go gear down here. Like all good Douglas aircraft, you can get the gear down pretty fast because they're built like tanks. Alright, there's the parkway. There's the balloon. There is the raceway. There we go. Alright, so now we're going to do this at 90. And we'll do this as a wheel landing. again, I'm getting configured a little bit early. And I'm, well, 800-900 feet at the raceway. It's probably good. Crap, I can't see. There we go. All right, there we are. I'm going to maintain 90. And you will see how this changes the complexion of the landing. All right. Let's just get ourselves stable here. The pappies, as Cirrus Max would say, are happy. Oh, I hope I don't bounce. Oh, I hope I don't bounce. Oh, I hope I don't bounce. Alright, we're descending a little fast here, about 600 feet per minute. We're at 90. In a second, I'll just pull back. And I'm not going to roll off the power entirely when we land. I'll just arrest our sink a little bit and give actually a little push forward. Okay, off the power just a touch. There we go. I'm actually closer to 85 than 90. We're just going to arrest our sink. Like so. Okay. Hold the nose forward. Slowly roll off the power. And then, and only when it stops flying, when you can feel it stop flying, like right there, slowly bring the tail wheel back, then pull it full back. Boy, that's making a crappy noise. Alright, so we're full back on the tail wheel, and I'm only gently dabbing the brakes. As you can see, it wants to nose over. All right, now let's see what that landing looked like. I think it looked good. I'm still having a hard time getting my sight picture right and judging distance from the ground, but I think that one was fairly good. Now, I don't think our tower shot works here. No, it doesn't. All right, well, that sucks. Here we go. All right. You'll also notice that the livery is not quite right. The real one doesn't have this little swoosh, although it's pretty damn cool. And the real one has got Flagship Detroit plastered right here. But, hey, it's close enough for government work, right? So here we are. And you see I just slowed the sink right there. You can see how I just pulled back ever so slightly. I'm just feathering the throttles. And whoosh, just kissed it on. Now I'm holding the nose forward there. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting for the speed to roll off. I could also bring up the flaps right there, but I didn't because I wasn't thinking. And now you see how it's starting to lose lift, and then we just let it gently come down. And then X-Plane does its slippy slidey thing. But I'm not sure you could do much better than that. In the real plane it would be a little bit easier because the control would be a little bit less funky, but let's just do the old Hawaii 5-0 shot here. Give it a look. We landed a little long because we were trying to baby the thing on, but in a second we're going to try it with a fairly short and funky runway, so at least we'll have some fun here. I don't even know if it's possible, but we'll try. All right, so there we are. All right, so that's, you know, what about a 450 foot per minute short final looks like. Now bear in mind, this was the 747 of its time. This was 3 times larger than the previous largest airliner. And that's pretty much what they look like when they land, although they usually land on the center line. All right, anyhow, let's just turn this thing around and head out to, well, let's just get ourselves located someplace. Let's see if we can actually get off the ground in this place. I'm not sure if we can. So let's go straight to Lufker Airport, which is a grass strip out on Long Island here. And let's see if we can get our sweet carcasses out of there and back in, for that matter. If we can, and I don't know if we can, then we will fly from there to Danbury, and we'll land on the mighty runway 26 there down a hill. It's about 3,800 feet. No, it's about 3,500 feet with the displaced threshold. So it'll be a challenging approach and landing, and we'll see if we can make this work. Okay, customize. We want to be on the grass because it's wider. This is too narrow for us. We'll hit something, but let's see if we can make it work. I would hazard a guess that maybe the answer is no. But this is why fake flying is so damn much fun. This is why we do what we do. All right, so here we are. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure this is going to work. I'm almost sure this isn't going to work. No, if I were a gambling man, I would say this is not going to work, especially since we're going to hit a bunch of shit on the way. And look at that obstacle to landing. Huh. Now look at this poor guy. He's not even, like, he doesn't even notice there's a DC-3 at his airport, but right at his field. But let's give it a go. So we'll take off with half flaps and as much power as we can muster, and then we'll see if we can land here. I don't even think we can take off from here, but let's just give it a go. No, that's not what I wanted. There we go. This is what I wanted. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll hold the brakes on. not looking good. Okay, airspeed is alive, even if we won't be for much longer. Okay, up comes the tail. There's 60. We probably can fly. Alright, now I'm going to stay in the ground effect here, and... Alright, we did it. Barely. And we're climbing at about 80. Alright, that's sort of like the triumph of hope over experience. Now let's see if we can land. I suppose we'll get up to pattern altitude, as it were. Might as well get the gear down again. Otherwise it'll be warning us the whole time. So we got up out of there. I'm not sure how realistic that is, but we did. Come out over the bay. That is Southampton or West Hampton or something, Hampton Airport. That's where we should be flying, but we're not. Nice looking tree lines though. This is ortho and tree lines. This is not just rich people country, it's also farm country. Okay, we're at pattern altitude, or pattern height as our British friends say, or English friends, or Welsh friends, or whatever you want to say. It takes a lot of nose down trim with the flaps in. Alright, so we're at 100 knots here. And for some reason significantly out of trim rudder-wise. That could be my own pedals. Could be me stomping on the pedals. Alright, so we're going to try a short field landing here, and that means we're going to come in pretty damn slow. And we're also going to have to plant it no matter what. And either get off the power immediately and let it sink, or we're going to have to get on the power almost immediately and get the hell out of there. It's easy for me to get disoriented at this airport too. For some reason, I always lose the field. Probably because there are a bunch of parallel roads, and they look just like the airport. I'm gonna get in a base leg here and see where the hell we are. See, lost the field. Damn it. It is crap. Always happens. Always happens to me. Well, then there we go. Get all of our flaps out. Where's the airport? Shit. I hate when that happens. It's those two roads right there that fuck me up. I'm getting low here in case we see it. Crap. I am a bad pilot. I can't find this field. Oh, shit. Okay, there we are. Alright. Let's fly out on 180 and try not to lose it again. I'm sitting here as we're talking. The sun is setting on my apartment and I am actually breaking into a sweat because I lost the field. That's how good simulation is these days. Just letting our altitude creep up just a little bit here, and I'm letting my speed creep down way too much. Alright, we'll turn to 180 here. We'll come back around. As soon as we're out over the bay, I want to come back in right around there. Actually look for landmarks this time. 1,000 feet will do us. I'm fully configured, so I'm just pushing down with all of my might on the controls. And I'm at like combat power here too, just to maintain a climb. Alright, so just loop around to due north and possibly we'll even be able to find the field. And again, we'll sort of drag it in. All right, there's the airport. We almost overcooked it again. So we're now on a 45 coming in. There's the field. All right, good. Now let's see if we can make this actually work. I'm slipping it just to come down a little bit here. We'll come over the fence at about 75. We'll still do a wheel landing. And again, we'll have to plant it pretty assuredly. And remember, we've got those power lines to clear. Just trickling the power in. Luckily, there's a lot of it. Okay, so there we are. There are the trees. Okay, cleared them. Shit! Okay, hold the nose forward. Up come the flaps. On come the brakes. And I'll bet you it says we hit the props. Yep, we struck the props. In the real plane, that wouldn't quite happen. You could put on some brakes and nose over, but here, let's just see how badly we nosed over here. That is the brakes. Should have had confidence. There we go. All right. So let's get on the other side here of us. Hang on. Otherwise, we'll be in the trees. All right, so over we come. Power comes off, and we bounced. Okay, we're fine there. Now watch what happens, though. Right there. Right there we did it. We nosed over. You want to try it again? Let's try it again. Hell yeah. Let's try it again. Why not? Alright, is anything still burning? My gauges, instruments fine. Alright, we're going to do that again. Only we'll do it, at least we'll take off in the other direction here. There's a little differential engine here. Come on. Can I move, please? Oh, you know what happened probably? Probably the tires are flat. Let's fix that. Alright, we'll cheat a little bit. We'll make ourselves 8 feet tall. Not a bad first effort. So this is bush flying. Okay, so now I'm going to use differential power here to spin us around. And a little bit of dab of braking. Still not really enough room. Alright, there we are. Or there will be. Okay, again we'll use half flaps. That's pretty respectable. Let's check our trim. Okay, that should be useful. Okay, full aft stick. Full power. Okay. Nose forward. Looking for maybe 90. Can we do it? We got 80. Alright, 80 we got, and up we go. And let's try that landing again. I think we can make it work. I'm just not going to brake as hard. So up we shall go and around we shall come. I'm just going to fly out to the last spit of land there. Come back around. Gear can come up. Keep flaps at about a quarter. Bring our power back to something sane. Come up to about 1,000 feet. The thing has good performance once you give it its head. As do we all. So there we are at 1,000 feet, going a little fast. Come around. Again, needs a lot of rudder. Bit more than a standard rate turn here. Alright, we'll get our gear down as soon as we level out just a little bit. oscillation. That was my yoke waking up and going to sleep again. Just get ourselves into a base leg here. Desperately try to find the field. Again. There it is. Right over there. See, that's the field right there, and I always mistake it for over here is the problem. All right, again, we're going to be doing this at 75, 80 knots, and we're practically going to let it die on the runway. At the same time, we don't want to let it bounce because you can't do any slowing down when you're bouncing. And as it always is the case, your view is obstructed by a pillar. Always. Just is the way it is. Okay, we're a little high. I'm pitching down, maintaining about 80. And we'll try not to strike a prop this time. Letting us sink as we turn, it's okay. Okay, gear is down. We're not stable yet. A little high still. See, we've got that, that's the obstacle that kind of gets us here. Just gonna let us fall out of now. The question is, can we stop? I'm not sure we can. We can. But it's marginal. Alright, so let's see that again. That's bloody awesome. I think this is a 2,000 foot strip, so it's really too short. But it's not like flying a 747 in here. Look at that, look at that guy there. Okay, there we go. Now, first of all, let's just see how we're going to do this here. Get this up a little bit. You know, I don't think... No, I just screwed this up. Hold on a second. I turned it into a camera that isn't going to pan. So let's go this way. Let's set it up right. That's insane. Okay, put that right there. Move that right about here. That should do it. Okay, so here we go. In all of its glory, but you can see we can't use the whole runway because obviously we have to clear this and we can't do it while just crashing afterwards, so listen to the sound. Okay. Look at that. Little bounce, little bounce. Look at that. And given X-plane's braking, that's about as good as it gets. And let's see, did we stop short of the cones? We stopped short of the cones. All right. One last flight. Let's go to Danbury. So let's start out at Bridgeport. Let's start out at a real airport here. We'll just go BDR to Danbury. Right across the sound. Reason why I picked Danbury is because the approach is steep. It's a 6-degree approach, so. And let's see. Take off on 06 because we're more or less heading in that direction. And confirm. Now, I'm still learning the startup procedure for this airplane and the shutdown procedure, so that's why we're just starting these things right up with the engines running. The other bits and pieces I'm learning are the sort of subtleties of the autopilot and what works and what doesn't. But it's an extraordinarily pleasant airplane to fly, as are the real things. The real things are solid, one of the words that applies. Fairly tame, all things considered. And again, remember, this was the 707 or 747 of its time. This was as advanced as it gets. Now, this is actually more advanceder than it gets, but let's throw in a quick flight plan, just direct. Let's do that to KDXR. You'll see it's not very far at all. And we'll put in the visual for 26, which is just an extended center line. There we go. We'll load that approach. Boom. Go back. Take a look here. Okay, so we'll make a left turn, and we will land to the west. And actually, we'll fly visually to get there, but and it seems like we're setting. Oh, we're set track up. Okay. All right, we do have enough fuel to get there. Let's just take off. Well, on this runway, we'll take off no flaps. Check our trims. We want it ever so slightly nose down, not too much, but just enough so that you're not forcing the tail up. And auto rich, mixture, stick full back initially. Relax the pressure on it, let it come forward. There we go. Maintain center line. And fly it off right about now. And tap the brakes and gear up. Then when we say a quick left turn, we'll do this at 4,500 feet, let's just say. No flaps. Alright, now this is the Lusitanic River right there, if I'm not mistaken. If not, it's right over here. Well, we'll get there. We'll just use this as our CDI. Well, it is a CDI, so of course we'll use it as our CDI. So we're 18 miles away. You know what? Let's just do 2,500 feet. We're not going to want to have to do a lot of schmancy descent managing here. Come back to reasonable power. Props back. Trim ourselves out. This thing really does perform nicely. Although the cloud shadows do not. Let me see if I can see the airport. I'll just cheat. I wonder if you can activate the approach on this. Let's see. Flight plan. Approach, activate. All right, now this seems to take us, there is the center line for it, but this seems to take us to takes us to midfield, and we don't want to be at midfield, we want to be right about there. So, now we know what that thing does. And it wants us to begin all the way over here, and obviously we don't need to do that. But we'll get ourselves into a kind of base leggy situation here. Let's see if we can find the airport in a second. That is, that's Candlewood Lake right there, so we sort of know where we are anyway. And we're also a little high. Let's just come down to 2,000 feet. And the field should be right about there. There it is. Right around there. And you can see our CDI is starting to come in, so that, or at least it's on scale. Good situational awareness tool. Oh no, I think the airport's a bit closer. Shit. Ah, there it is. I'm not descending fast enough. Coming down about 500 feet per minute. That should do the trick. Oh, wait a minute. Have I fucked up again? Well, let's start to make our turn inbound. Get our gear down. Oh, there it is. There's the runway. Okay, no. Haven't fucked it up too badly. Just lost my landmarks. And I can't see. Alright, there we are. We overshot it. That's what we did. Okay, now as you can see, there's a hill in front of the runway and it displays threshold, so that makes it fun. But we are fine, we are fat, we are happy. We're a little too over-configured for where we are. We'll come down the hill. And we won't have a whole hell of a lot of runway. So we'll want to come down at about 90 or maybe even 85. And our speed is going to build up as we go down that hill. And we'll have to arrest our sink pretty quickly, and we'll have to stop pretty quickly. You can see that's a pretty small runway. So as you can see, I just have this consistent huge amount of left rudder. I'm way out of trim here. Just going to try adjusting the power differentially on my engines. We will do full flaps here. I really do not know why this, unless my pedals are funky. Now my feet are flat on the floor, I'm not touching the pedals. And now it needs a little bit of right trim. Alright, well I shouldn't be fucking around with that now, but I'm going to have to. Alright, there we go. Ball is centered. Speed is on. A little bit high. Gear is down. Green lights. Mixture is auto rich. It's almost as if we've got a crosswind, but we shouldn't have a crosswind because I think, well, got a tiny little tailwind. Just going to bring down our altitude just a little bit more. Now you can see we're coming down this hill, and you can see the picture is very different. I'm still pitched for 90, but I've got almost no power on, so in a second I'll roll just a tiny little bit of power in. And see how we get on. I'll round out right about there. Okay, a little bit of a bounce. And hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it some more. Up come the flaps. And that is an intentional ground loop right there. And there we are. Except it's never going to stop. Alright, so let's see how badly we fucked that up. Just taxi back to, well, there's no place to taxi to. This plane's a little large for the airport. I wonder if I bet you they flew in here back in the day. Let's see if I can get these brakes just modulate a little. There we go. Alright. There we go. Alright, so let's see where we touch down. Actually, you know what? I think we touched down at a reasonably good place. We did touch down in the touchdown zone, but probably a little fast. Let's see. And we bounced, which, you know, deprived us of a little bit of friction. So there we go. We round out. That looks good. That was a half a bounce. Probably kept a little too much power in too long. And I could have gotten that tail down a bit quicker so I could do some braking. Yeah, it just... There we go. Around the corner we come. Look at that. And then we're just at the mercy of, you know, we're at the mercy of A, physics, and B, X-plane physics, which aren't necessarily the same thing. But we saved our dignity, I guess. One last shot here. You'll see the bounce from up close. Tail draggers are fun. My God, they're fun. DC-3s are fun. Magnificent. Magnificent airplanes. No wonder people still love to fly them now. Alright, so there's that hill. And so we're coming down just a little faster than we ordinarily would. You can see that slope is a lot steeper. We probably could have dragged it in a little bit more. This is so rewarding to fly. It really is. You should just get this. It's free. It's Aeroworx and it's free. Alright, so there's a little bounce. Yeah. Got a little chippy, little yippy there. It is a runway that kind of you need to get on the brakes. watch this at the end. This is the flare maneuver here. I don't mean like a flare, I mean it's a certain flair to it. Look at that. Whew. Broke a little china, but hey. Man, look at that. I wish Phil Rizzuto were calling that. Oh, and he slides in safe at third. All right, on that note, I will leave you to ponder tail wheel flying, and thank you for watching, and see you again real soon. Bye-bye.